Lord in heaven, as we come together today to this meeting, we ask for your blessing and guidance that we may accomplish the task we have before us today. We thank you for bringing us here safely. We ask for your guidance and wisdom in the decisions that are made today. We ask that you watch over Madam Speaker Curley and the Council of Elders, President Nyder, Vice President Montoya, Chief Justice James, staff, veterans, the guests here today, visitors who are present here today. We ask that you continue to watch over our Connect people and our veterans. May you continue to be with each and every one day. As we complete our meeting today, I ask for your blessings as we all travel home safely and to the places we are to go to. I ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Delegate Azure, for the invitation this morning. We're on to item 2, recognize guests and visiting individuals. We have Mr. Beal. We have also the speaker, also present, and we have Honorable Seth David doing the morning, David. Good morning to everybody on the call as well. We'll move on to item 3, review and adopt today's agenda. Ms. Thacker, can you review or could you read the agenda? Good morning. This is the agenda for the Budget and Finance Committee. We have the Navigation Council, November 14, 2023, special meetings. Regarding the chair, considering power of our Australian vice expected to finance the getting under law. I think the meeting order will call the reviewing the document that word getting about the term. By receiving reports, FY 24 budget management matter is Ms. Dominic BL, Director OMB, update national presenter administration C, ARPA, eligible costs was determined by legislation number 230-23 by DOJ. Presenters now notice is the General Tax Unit, DOJ, with Urban Official Director BCB. Bullet is number of pending equipment purchases using ARPA funded CARES Fund since 2020 by NNCD registrations. C, TIBIC update action, that should be D. TIBIC update, presenter shall be Parish Chairperson. Budget Finance Committee. E, update on U.S. Treasury's guidelines and continuing resolution for the U.S. budget. Presenter is Justin Augustine, Director in NWO. 6 old business done, 7 new business. A, legislation number 0247-23. B, scheduling 1 meeting with the Chief Justice on UUFB. 2 is meeting with Speaker Curley on UUFB. 3 is meeting with President Nyder. 4, work sessions with OEOC on citizen PTF funded projects. 5 is work session with BCB, NECA, and IHS on bathroom additions. 6, work session with ARPA broadband dollars. 8, close of the session, written announcements. The journal of the next meeting is November 21, 2023. Thank you, and the reading of the agenda. Committee members, we have a motion to adopt today's agenda. Vice Chair Slater, motion to adopt today's agenda. Do we have a second to the motion? Delegate Lombardo Azure, second to the motion. Committee members, do we have any amendments to today's agenda? We have also been notified by the sponsor of 024723 Casey Allen Johnson that he will not be present at this committee meeting and has asked the committee to defer this legislation to the next meeting. So his chapter can also be present at the next Budget and Finance Committee meeting.
only request that, first read. And I believe that, Ms. Hacker, are there other legislation that are, ready?
Yes, we do have, legislation number 0243-23. This is sponsored by Dr. Andy. Also legislation number 0244-23. It's sponsored by Delegate Nance James. And then legislation number 0250-23. And that's sponsored by Herman and Daniels Jr. Those three are ready for the committee.
It's not right for informing the committee of the legislation that is consideration today. Committee members, this is the second call for the amendments to today's agenda.
Items.
The legislation.
Yeah, the legislation, the number were they again?
243-0244 and 0250.
There it is. And those onto the agenda, and then also the item number legislation 0247-23.
Thank you, Speaker Damon. We have a second to the motion. For amendment 1 to the agenda. Vice Chair Fox, Slater, seconds motion to amendment 1. Further discussion on amendment 1 to the agenda. Second call for any questions, modifications to amendment 1. Third call, hearing none, Ms. Nelson, can you do a roll call vote on the amendment 1?
Yes, roll call vote on amendment number 1, Mark Ashford, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Mark Ashford is green. Honorable Advertising Block Party, how do you vote? I vote green. Thank you, Honorable Advertising Block Party votes green. Honorable Seth David, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Seth David votes green. Honorable Paul Slater, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Paul Slater votes green. Madam Chair, we have 4 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposing, 1 member excused. Madam Chair, not voting. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. With that, colleagues, we do have passage of amendment 1, so we'll go back to the main motion. Do we have any other amendments that the committee would like to offer to the agenda?
Just a question then.
Okay.
It says here that we're having our next meeting on the 21st. Do we have a meeting tomorrow?
We have a strategic work session tomorrow.
Just to work it. Okay. Okay.
Our next
Okay.
regular meeting or special meeting was 21st.
So 1.
We,
Okay.
okay. Do we have any other amendments to today's agenda? All right, I believe that was second call, third call. Any other questions or comments on the agenda? I believe Mr. Augustine is also requesting to go first because he is on a webinar shortly before Rika. So, okay. All right, okay, so we can approve the agenda later. All right. We'll go back to the South for second reading of the agenda.
Okay, thank you. This is the second reading for the legislation number 0243-23, 0244-23, and 250-23 were added to the agenda, and then 0247-23 is moved to the next meeting on November 21st, 2023. And that was amendment on the document.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, or sorry, it's not cut. I'm so sorry. Okay. With that, colleagues, we have second reading of the agenda. For the questions and comments, Ms. Nelson, can you do a roll call vote on the agenda with the number 1?
Yes, Madam Chair. Roll call vote on the agenda. Mark Leffert, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Mark Leffert votes green. Honorable Advertising Block Party, how do you vote? Mark Leffert votes green. Thank you.
Today, the Honorable Aberdeen brought by the student, Honorable Damon, and vote. Thank you, Honorable Damon, and Green, and Paul Slater, and vote. Thank you, Honorable Slater, Green, and Carol, has four members voted and decided they are opposing. One of the excused, Madam Chair, not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. As we have the agenda before us, we'll move on to number 4, which is review and adopt the journal of October 31st, 2023. I believe Ms. Nelson sent the journal last week for our review. Colleagues, do we have a motion to adopt the journal from October 31st, 2023? Vice Chair Carl made a motion to the second to adopt the journal. Okay, Speaker Damon, second to motion to adopt the journal. Any questions or comments on the journal from October 31st? Okay, hearing none, Ms. Nelson, can you report on the adoption of the journal of October 31st?
Yes, Madam Chair, we'll call vote on the adoption of the journal from October 31st, 2023. Mara Effort, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Mara Effort, votes green. Anderson has got Carter, how do you vote?
Whatever, green.
Thank you, Anderson has got Carter, votes green. Honorable Kane, how do you vote?
I will agree.
Thank you, Honorable Kane, votes green. Honorable Paul Slater, how do you vote? Thank you, Honorable Paul Slater, votes green. Madam Chair, when one member is deferred as you're opposing, one member excused, Madam Chair, not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. We have adopted the journal of October 31st, 2023. We're going to move on to receiving reports, which is A, the FY 2024 budget instructional manual by Mr. Dial. I believe at the last Budget and Finance Committee meeting, Vice Chair Slater asked for a continuous update on the development of the bill. So, Mr. Dial, welcome. Good morning, Mr. Dial, welcome.
Good morning.
Floor is yours.
Good morning, members of the Budget and Finance Committee and ladies and gentlemen with us. I saw the agenda yesterday afternoon that says FY 24 budget instructions manual to be presented by myself. And I really don't know what you want me to present and report on. But I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Dial. Let me clarify, the committee member who requested the update, Vice Chair Slater.
Spoke to Snaka and then. I mean, I was informed that someone was being for the committee.
Actually, needed chair. You know, you already had
I said on the quarterly basis.
regarding the bench challenges.
It's
It's regarding the bench challenges on the current bench, especially continue to do it and will be on the current bin at each meeting. And get a new, to develop a new working group. Point of contact and work with me to, as a contact for legislating.
That's on a quarterly basis, but, Mr. Dial, do you have any updates from the, appropriation, committee that the executive branch has developed in regards to your gyms?
A little bit.
I guess I'm gonna ask the committee members, the committee would like to hear that report, or, if you would like to, you can also delete the report off of the agenda as well. I'll leave it up to the committee. you want to delete the item off of the agenda, or would you like to hear the update from the appropriations committee that the executive branch has created? Vice Chair Slater?
Thank you, Chair. If there's information to report on the appropriations, I'd like to do that this time.
Okay, Vice Chair Slater, Mr. Bell, we'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, again, members of the Budget and Finance Committee. I didn't bring my folder because I didn't know this matter would come up. So I'll just tell you what I'm aware of at the moment. The appropriation.
Point of order. Shredder Delegate Craig?
Yeah, so on the agenda that the committee approved, it's, fiscal year 24 budget instruction manual. Is that the report that we asked Mr. Bial to provide to the committee? And is that what we're going to hear from this report?
Thank you, Shredder. The request was made to hear an update from the appropriations committee, but you're correct that according to the agenda that the committee approved, that this is on the FY 2024 budget instructional manual. So, I'm gonna side with the point of order and ask the committee members, because Mr. Bial doesn't have any new updates in regards to the topic on the agenda. Committee members, my suggestion is to delete the report or defer the report, because originally during the discussion during the last budget and finance committee meeting, it was on a quarterly basis to check back in with Mr. Bial on the development of the BIM. So the notes from Ms. Nakai was to give the committee an update, but not this into the fiscal year. So that's the hiccup in the development of this agenda per the notes of our staff. So committee members, I'm gonna ask again if you would like to how the committee would like to proceed. My suggestion is that we defer this to the end of the quarter.
Madam Chair, a motion to defer receive and report item number 80, which is the FY 24 budget instruction manual. If you're referring to the end of the quarter, or referring to the meeting in the second quarter, which would be the first meeting of January. So I'll defer to the first meeting of January, which would be the first week in the second quarter.
Okay, thank you, Speaker Dino. There is a motion on the floor for the deferral for this report to the first week of January 2024.
Sure.
Vice Chair Slater?
I request to modify, I guess before seconding but I mean, this is not on fiscal year 24 bid, but
Point of order, delegate, please.
Shredder Delegate Craig?
Yes, we need a second on the motion. We have a motion on the floor.
Thank you. Committee members, would you like to, so there's a motion on the floor to defer the report to the first week of January 2024. Do we have a second to the motion? Delegate Hazard, second to the motion. Okay, I will entertain the question. Vice Chair Slater, do you have a question?
yeah, I guess it's a request, and then it's this report, from what Ms. Nakai just read, is not on the fiscal year 24 budget instruction manual. It's about the development of fiscal year 25 budget instruction manual.
Ms.
The last meeting where Mr. O'Neill presented his reports, we indicated that we had a difficult time implementing the current FY 24 bin, and so it would be developing the FY 25 bin as well, if we want to go forward in that direction, and I think we could probably provide that information, to to, implement or to begin developing the like 25 spin according to how he would like to see it developed, rather than the way it turned out for FY 24. I guess legislative council, did the whole thing for FY 24, and that wasn't meeting, or was difficult for OMB to implement. That was just in his previous report, that's what he indicated to the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Knockout. Vice Chair Slater, this is an update on the implementation of this current BIM and also the recommendations that the Office of Budget and Management will have in the upcoming BIM. So the motion on the floor is to defer this report until January 2024. There's also a second. Do you have any questions, further questions? Okay. Committee members, do you have any other questions on the motion on the floor? Second call. Hearing none, Ms. Nelson, can you do a roll call on the motion?
That's all, I'm sorry, Mark, I hear it, I will.
Three.
Thank you, Mariah, third, vote green, Honorable, Marty, I vote. Honorable green, thank you. Thank you, Stephen, Honorable, Honorable green, Honorable Stephen, and vote.
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Stephen, vote green, Honorable Carl Slater, and vote.
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Carl Slater, vote green. Madam Chair, we have 4 members voting in the part that you're opposing, or the next, please, Madam Chair, not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Thank you, committee members, and thank you, Mr. Bial. We look forward to hearing your report.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to item B, which is an update on the Navajo Veterans Administration Housing Fund. Our presenter today is Ms. Bobby Baldwin, with the Veterans Administration. Do we have anyone from the Navajo Nation Veterans Administration? Do we have anyone on the call from the Navajo Nation Veterans Administration Office? Second call for the Navajo Nation Veterans Administration. Ms. Bobby Baldwin. Third call. Ms. Bobby Baldwin. Ms. Bobby Baldwin has not responded. We'll move on to the ARPA eligible.
Madam Chair,
Speaker.
my question back to, the Navajo Nation Veterans Administration Housing Funds. My first question to you, I guess, I'd like to, motion to talk about this. And I'm going to motion this, and the reason why is because if Baldwin is avoiding the committee, we need to subpoena her to come before the committee, or because one, I have not seen any kind of veterans plan at any of the ARPA update meetings at Tom Patero's office, or meeting at the last meeting with DCD. So I just want to talk about that. I don't know if any of my colleagues have seen the veterans plan, but they were relatively aware about this, and I motion, and I just want to talk about this.
Okay. Speaker, do you have any motions to add a discussion item on the Veterans Administration? Are you just voting?
Yeah.
For
Motion for B.
B?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The motion on the floor is to, item B into discussion item on the agenda, and to open up to the community to speak about the report. And then Doug Azaritt, seconding the motion for the record. Committee members, do you have any further questions on the motion? Second call. Okay, hearing none, Ms. Nelson, can you do a roll call vote on the motion on the floor?
Yes, I'm sure you're probable, the discussion.
For the board. We have Carmen Shedda, Doug Carney.
what's the roll call for? We're,
To amend the agenda to create item 5B into discussion item.
is that your motion?
He's the chair, but what we could do, I thought we could just get a motion and second to discuss it. Then we could vote on the action.
Okay, so Ms. Nelson, sorry, the motion on the floor, Speaker Davis, can you say the motion on the record?
Well, I think the motion is just talk about the update. I mean, if there's no presentation, I think we just need to talk about how we're going to get an update. What is the recommendation for the committee to get an update?
Okay,
I need that.
okay, so the motion on the floor for B, just B,
Yeah, just be.
and, Speaker Davis motion, and the delegate Asbury seconds the motion. So now we're gonna open it up to discussion on the report. Speaker Davis?
Good morning, colleagues. I know that you all have numerous meetings that you attend. I do not know, honestly, if, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe, I don't know, if anybody in here from the FRF office. I have not seen the plan for any kind of, I guess, plan in place that the Veterans Administration is putting forward to expend their allocation of funds for housing. And I think it's relatively aware that Snakai gave them adamant time. They did say, the Veterans Administration did say that they were well aware 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago at the last cleanup meeting, that they were on the agenda. And then they did not have a plan in place and they deferred it to the next meeting. I'm just worried, colleagues. I don't know if you all have heard of a plan, but I don't know if we need to send speaker a notice on this to say, I don't know, Hesse. I've been to the Hesse meeting twice, both Hesse meetings. We've never heard a plan that was specifically from BCB and from KID, their allocation of funds, similar to the plan that we heard at our last meeting. So I'm relatively unaware of a plan right now, and I don't know if you all are colleagues. And if you are all, then maybe I'm just not informed of this plan, but I'm just worried about how they're gonna draw down these funds. I look at that ARPA funds clock that's ticking away, and it's a little over 7 months and a week left. You get these dollars into a contract, and I just don't know what they're doing. So I don't know if you all have heard of a plan. I guess that's my question. And what is your thoughts?
Thank you, Speaker Davis. Committee members, I think, it's appropriate that we can go into informal discussion at this point on public topic. Because there's no presenter, we're talking about the report. I personally have not heard of a plan. I don't know if other committee members would like to add to the conversations.
Thanks. I think this is the second request, or it's the third request. It's all been conveyed. I don't know, when we received guidance from the Office of Legislative Counsel, they said that we should send a formal letter to the president. That's how you estimate it. So I would just suggest that you and colleagues can confer with the Chief Legislative Counsel, but I really want to hear what's going on and concur with us of what you're taking said.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Put on this, do you have any other comments or questions on the report? Or the discussion on this meeting report?
Eric, it's just a few honorable, like, we need to write a letter. Maybe we can work on that. It's not going to do that over this body. And letting them know that they need to come to the committee and they've had I think relatively almost close to a month to come down before the committee and relatively aware of plans that should be in place, and I just don't want us to can down the road. One, I know that you as well Also, the speaker's office is putting together some kind of tentative work sessions. That's going to be happening the first week in December. I don't know if housing is on there. But I hope it is. And we really need to make sure that we have some kind of legitimate plan in place for hearing back at leadership. Because I'm not hearing anything. And BC, if you remember colleagues 2 weeks ago, well, was it 2 weeks ago? Was it 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, we heard directly from Mr. Dwayne Seta and Mr. What was his name? Patrick Delguy. And they both said that they have not heard anything from the Veterans Administration on the plan for veterans housing. That we talk and concerned right now, but they're not talking with them. And it brings up another caution is that one, if they don't have any project managers at division at the Veterans Administration, how are they trying to spend down the $40–50 million? Are they going to get did the president's office allocate to say that, you know what, let's get them an IDIQ contract too, to help draw down the funds? I'm not sure. I don't know. But I think I'm getting into the weeds of it right now, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds. I just want to know what their plan is. They've had a month come before the Budget Finance Committee, and they're not here again here today.
Thank you, Speaker Daly. We can Mr. Poppy, if you can also Ms. Dunford, the planning members. Okay, thank you. For being here. So, Mr. Proctor was asked by the committee to develop a letter to the administration. So we'll work together with developing the language of the community.
For your signature, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you, committee members. Mr. Poppy will assist the committee in developing the letter to the Veterans Administration. And we do have a motion and a second on the floor on the report. Now, are there any other comments or action items the committee would like to pursue? Mr. Poppy is going to draft the letter.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other comments or questions on any further direction the committee would like to move on this? Call for questions and comments on 5C. All right, hearing none, there's nothing to do roll call vote.
Yes, I'm enter roll call votes. More Western, how do you go?
Green.
Thank you, Maura. Green, Honorable Arlington Block. Hardy, how do you vote?
I was trying to agree.
Thank you, Honorable Arlington Block. Ladies, Green, Honorable, Sustainment, how do you vote?
I agree.
Thank you, Honorable David Johnson. Honorable Carl Slater, how do you vote?
Agree.
Thank you, Honorable Carl Slater. Madam Chair, we have four members voting to be termed as the prison, Madam Chair, voting. And one member, do you read that, sir?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ms. Nelson. All right, colleagues, we are moving forward, with that motion, that directive. So now, we are on the ARPA eligible costs as determined by legislation number 023023 by DOJ. Presented Mel Rovis, Assistant Attorney General, Tax Unit, DOJ, and Mr. Arvin Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell is present. Is Mr. Mel Rovis on the call?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is Mel Rodas from DOJ on the call. Thank you.
Committee members, we have our presenters, we have Mr. Melroder on the call, and also our Mitchell here in the budget conference room.
Good morning, like. Came in from Flagstaff. Having a strategic times. Trying to find my pen. There's a handout that's being handed out. October the 30th, 2023 is the date on that. That memorandum. I think the question is pending equipment purchase using the ARPA funded CARES Fund since 2020, approved by Nation Council legislation. There's the front sheet, you have a background information where out of 110 chapters, 108 chapters were allocated heavy equipment items listed on Exhibit A. The other two chapters that were not allocated, any items were Red Lake District 18 and then St. Michael's chapter. There are 4 resolutions for the heavy equipment. They're listed on there. And then just a top level information. Since the purchase, ECT has purchased 68 backhoes, 21 motor graders, 15 skid steers, 4 tractors, 2 bulldozers, 1 trencher, 1 excavators, 2 forklifts, 32 vehicles, 12 water trucks, 3 dump trucks, 32 trailers, the other miscellaneous item. So anyway, that's just a top level information. Now, what was in the legislation, if you go to the blue tab here, the first blue tab, these were all the requests. These were all the requests that was made of those legislation. You have them listed by delegate's name, and then the chapter, and then the equipment, and then the estimated costs. So you have this listing here, all the way to page. You have page. There's 7 pages. There's 7 pages of delegate's name with the chapter, and then the heavy equipment type. Yeah. So those were the requests back then, 2020. The next blue tab, equipments that have been purchased, you have a listing again. You have chapter name, description, VIN number, the actual cost, and the vendor, and the date of delivery. So these are all the equipments that were purchased. Although they're at the, hopefully they're at the chapter, although they have VIN numbers, and I haven't talked to property yet, see if they were tagged. But if the chapter has their own tagging system, they can tag it. So that's the next blue column is all the equipments that were purchased. Although the next tab, equipments that still needs to be purchased. You have it by delegate's name, the chapter, and then the equipment that needs to be purchased, and then the estimated amount. So the essence, since this was like a couple of years ago, the estimated amount is probably lower or higher than what is stated on here. So those are what we have on here. There's a grand total of 3.7 million that is still equipments that is still hasn't been purchased yet. I forgot to send this report to Mr. Rodas, but I did send it 2 weeks ago, when we were on the agenda at that time. Hopefully he has a copy. Although the total of the legislation of all the equipment that was supposed to be purchased, you'll see it on page 7, which is $23,984,719.77. So that was what was in the legislation, and then the purchase. So I don't have a total in the total purchase, but there's a balance of 3.7 million. So just minus that from the 23, so we probably did purchase in the amount of roughly 20 million. So that's what I have on this report. The other one that I'm still I met with Mr. Patero a while back, and I told him that I know that this was purchased with the citizen, and how do we get reimbursed from the ARPA? How do we get reimbursed from the ARPA money so we can spend down? So that we already spent the 20 million. There's still 3.7 million that's out there. So the one that hasn't been purchased, I also told the 4 IDIQ that are working out there in the chapters that if you have equipment purchase, let's purchase those right away. So we can get those, get the money amount off the books and get it obligated and get it purchased. So, those are the instructions that I gave them. Then hopefully we can do the same for what is outstanding here, the 3.7 million. I don't know if Mr. Rodas has any additional information.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Rodas, do you have any further, anything to add to the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and thank you, Director Mitchell. Again, this is Mel Rodas from Navajo DOJ. I think that my portion of the report was to speak to whether DOJ had reviewed the equipment that was in legislation 0230-23. And that legislation amended CJA 0121, the sawmill equipment purchase of a heavy-duty truck was to be replaced with the purchase of a gooseneck trailer, an ATV, a UTV 4x4 with cap equipment. And what I have to report is that DOJ was not asked to do an FRF eligibility determination on those items. What we did review for Sawmill chapter includes expenditure plans for a motor grader, a warehouse, a solar project, rural addressing project, streetlight project, senior center building renovations, Head Start building renovations, bathroom addition projects, cistern system project, and chapter renovation phase 3. So we reviewed those ones. We were not asked to review gooseneck trailers, ATV, UTV with cap equipment for Sawmill chapter. However, DOJ did plenty of eligibility determination reviews for gooseneck trailers for other chapters, and we put those all under 6.1 eligibility category. Government services, that's the government services revenue loss category. And that's where we've been categorizing all heavy equipment purchases. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rodas, and thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Does that conclude your presentation? Thank you. Committee members, do we have a motion to accept the report today?
Motion.
Speaker Seth Damon, motions to accept the report. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
Vice Chair Carl Slater, second to the motion to accept the report. All right, committee members, do we have any comments, questions on the report? Speaker Damon?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. all the way to here. It's called in. Oh, you can't? No. Fine. Well, back to the report. Thank you, Mel, for being on the call too as well. My question is, I guess, there was a legislation that came before the Budget and Finance Committee a month ago, and that was for Sawmill chapter. And that was for, Honorable, Dr. Andy Des. And the question I had at that time was, one, like you indicated, the amount, out of this original listing, Mel, or Mr. Mitchell, the original listing that's totaling $23 million. Out of that, has any of that been eligible for reimbursement? That's my first question. Through, because this was funded out of the CSM fund, were any of these eligible for reimbursements to be replenished back to the nation to utilize the ARPA funds to put back into the CSM fund? That's my first question. The second one is that these purchases that have not been completed, I don't know if you have this report on with you, Mel, but there's a total amount of $3 million. Yeah, a total amount of $3,777,000. The change that has not been purchased. Now, my question is, because you're trying to, or I guess the justification is to justify to the treasury to say that we're getting these dollars for reimbursement for, I think it's 6.11 for governmental loss. Is these still eligible for reimbursement under ARPA, the ones that have not been purchased, including Sawmill chapter? That's my question, because Sawmill, they just passed a resolution and they're trying to get those purchases by the end of this year. If they pull that off and they get those done, will those be eligible? Will any of these other purchases of the $3.7 million be eligible? That's my question. And then back to my first question, any of the original $23 million, were those eligible for reimbursement? And I just want to say good morning to my chief, Honorable Herman Daniels, for being here with us. Are you back and forth?
Thank you, Speaker Damon. I'm going to turn the floor back over to Mr. Mitchell.
I'll go ahead and have Mr. Rodas answer that question. When I did talk to Mr. Botero 2 or 3 weeks ago, the short answer he gave me was that it's probably not eligible for reimbursement, but because I'll leave it to Mel. And if we want to have the 3.7 that is still out there, we probably need to do an eligibility submittal to DOJ.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Rodas?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and thank you, Speaker Damon, for the questions. Back in October of 2021, DOJ was asked to do an eligibility determination for chapter heavy equipment that was included in resolution CJA 0121. And so we looked at heavy equipment such as, purchase of water trucks, dump trucks, semi with flatbed, heavy duty trucks, dozers, loaders, trenchers, and excavators, backhoes, all those types of things. Motor graders. The eligibility determination that I'm looking at was for 2.96 million. I don't see one for the, I think you said 23 million. I can't remember if you said 23 million or 37 million. I apologize. I don't see that one, but basically we looked at, what heavy equipment is being purchased, what our understanding of how it was going to be used, and that would qualify under government service. The equipment was to be used by the chapter, by chapters rather, for the benefit of the chapter government and chapter members. And, Treasury has said that a government service can include purchase of equipment to perform government services. So if the chapters are going to be using this heavy equipment to, they're going to be using it for various things, building roads, moving, food and water for assistance to the people, plowing snow, digging trenches and things of that nature. Those would be considered government services. So we categorized that heavy equipment under the revenue loss government services category. Again, we did include gooseneck trailers in that review. I don't think that we reviewed any ATVs or UTVs. At least that's not on my list of the review that we did under CJA 0121. And so that would have to be submitted separately for an eligibility determination. And the delegate could work, Delegate Dr. Inez could work with the FRF office to get that submitted to DOJ for review. In terms of reimbursement of the CHISN fund using FRF, that was provided for, that reimbursement was provided for in CJY 4121. And so I don't believe that an additional council resolution would be needed to accomplish that reimbursement. Thank you.
For babies? For the original, yeah. You have more questions?
Vice Chair Slater?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Rodas, and thank you, Arvin. Arvin, can you work with Mr. Mitchell? Can you work with DOJ and Tom Shop to do some sort of revised table that shows the number of vehicles or pieces of equipment that are deemed eligible, what that total cost is, and what we're going to submit for reimbursement? I know there was a consideration that maybe we wouldn't submit all of these for reimbursement if they needed to be reserved for another purpose, if you had audit issues or things like that. So I guess I would just like to see more of the actual numbers that we're proposing for reimbursement, because your report just included all of the equipment. And I know that there were some that were not deemed eligible. So yeah, I guess some sort of like graphical representation just showing that number breakdown. And then Mr. Rodas, is there, well, that's the request I have right now. I just want to know what that sort of maximum value is as we look into potentially reallocating dollars or trying to free up dollars and make them available. So that's what I'd like to see. Thanks. And maybe by next by the 21st. That's our next meeting, right? Tuesday? If possible. Can't go back to 20 minutes.
Okay, go.
Thank you, Vice Chair Slater.
No, it's free.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear any questions, so I was just clarifying. Committee members, do we have any further questions to the presentation?
I think that was a request, right? Get that update. Does that update, are you okay, like, would that include like the western pipeline, western water pipeline? Because I remember DOJ was saying at that point is that they're still reviewing and see if that was something ongoing. Is that what you're looking at? Those projects?
Yeah, basically anything where we had included a provision saying that
Okay.
Reimburse it to the extent possible, but then it wasn't necessarily included in ARPA legislation. We made that.
Okay, so yeah, I second that request.
Yes.
It's a request.
do-
Thank you. Well,
Direct around,
Yeah.
all right. I will acknowledge the request, and okay, you got the request now.
I'm looking at the agenda, I'll get it.
Okay, Mr. Foggy, did you get the request? Ms. Nelson, did you get the request? Okay, thank you, great. Okay, great, great. Committee members, do we have any other questions on the report? Hearing none, Ms. Nelson, can we do a roll call vote on the report?
Yes, Madam Chair, will call vote. On the report, Marta, how do you vote?
Great.
Thank you, Marta, Green. Honorable Anderson, Holly, how do you vote? Honorable Damon, how do you vote?
I would make
Thank you, Honorable Damon votes green. Honorable Slater, how do you vote?
Three.
Thank you, Honorable Slater votes green. Madam Chair, we have 300 voting and 200 voting. 1 member not voting, 1 member abstaining, Madam Chair not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. With that, colleagues, the report is accepted by the committee. Oh, for the record, Delegate Everett has required to excuse the board. Okay. Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Mitchell, and thank you, Mr. Rodas. Committee members, we can still hear reports at this time, and then,
Ask them where they're.
Margo, would you like to hear the report on Civic?
Right. So Justin's in here, and it's a.
Well, hold on.
You can't even talk about it. Can't go anything, it's interested in the system like that. Well, you get rid of.
Wait,
What a motion to adjourn?
well, we have. So Delegate Azarick doesn't want to hear the Civic report.
we could go over it, right?
That's the end of the report, so it just goes into legislation.
Okay. If I get 30 minutes,
Okay,
I gotta leave and then say I'm coming back for you.
okay, we'll recess for 30 minutes. We will come back at 10:40.
Yes.
Alright.
Was that you?
And 51, Ms. Nelson, can you do a roll call for attendance?
Sure. Madam Chair, roll call for attendance. Honorable, funding parent. Honorable funding president, Honorable House Leader.
President.
Thank you, Honorable House Leader is present. Honorable Beth Damon.
I'm here.
Thank you, Honorable Beth Damon is present. Honorable Amber Kenneth Rock Body is excused. Honorable Norman James excused. Honorable Lamar Asser.
President.
Thank you. Lamar Asser is present. Madam Chair, we have 4 members present upon roll call and 2 members excused. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. We've got colleagues who do have a quorum. We are going to go to the next item for Vice Chair Slater. Do you have a motion to amend the agenda? No, All right, okay, we're gonna go on to the agenda. I believe the next item on the report is, on the agenda is the civic report from myself.
Madam Chair, I motion to, get that as a written report, and you can hand that out to the committee members.
Okay, thank you, Speaker David. Speaker David motions to, have the civic report as a written report, send it out to the committee members, second by Delegate Lamardo Azarian. Any questions and comments on that motion? Hearing none, Ms. Nelson, can you do a roll call vote?
Yes, Madam Chair, roll call vote on the written report. Mark Esser, how many votes?
Green.
Thank you, Mark Esser votes green. Honorable Amber Kenneth Rock Body is excused. Honorable Seth Damon. Honorable Seth Damon.
I vote, green.
Thank you, Honorable Seth Damon votes green. Honorable Carl Slater, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Norman in between is excused. Madam Chair, we have 3 members voting in the affirmative or opposing, 2 members excused. Madam Chair, not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. We will distribute the written report out to the committee. We're gonna move on to the next report, which is by Mr. Justin Augustine. Is the nomination Washington office on the call?
I'm sorry.
Ms. Nelson,
Let me see. You was on earlier.
is Dr. Annie Ness also on the call?
I don't see Dr. Anthony as on the call. I don't see
Let's just move past.
Mr. Justin Huffing.
Justin.
I'm gonna co-sponsor, legislation 0243-23.
Okay, second call for Justin Augustine. Third call for Justin Augustine.
Chair Parrish, this is Dwayne.
Oh,
Miss, yeah, the executive director, Augustine, said he's on the line right now. For some reason, he's having some technical issues. We give him just one.
okay, thank you, Dwayne.
Yeah, they say we're going to one, and West Coast time, I mean, East Coast time.
Yeah, that'd be 5 minutes from now. But that's just saying, it's still on his thing, it's just passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, Mr. Augustine is, starting his, the technical issues out. We're gonna move on to the legislation. We'll come back to Mr. Augustine. Dwayne, can you let Justin know that?
Yes, I will let him know.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. We'll come back. We're gonna, the committee will consider the legislation now.
Okay.
Okay, So we are going to move on to 7A, which is legislation number 04323. For the record, Speaker Seth Beeman is a co-sponsor to Dr. Andy Nez legislation. Ms. Nakai, can you read the legislation into record?
Copies?
You guys want to speak? Okay, I don't know who's speaking.
Sponsored by two four three 23 was put to couple computers with decisions that those relating to health education, business services, budget, national communities, supporting and reading out the Health Foundation, Sage Memorial Hospital Incorporated. Acceptance of the produce prescription pilot program P4 grant awarded by the United States Department of Health and Human Services and Health Services. All of the documents that are referencing legislation are there. We also have an internet public review document that shows for the first report the list of comments received. And then Health Education Human Services Committee has a detailed no amendment. And refers to the finance committee. Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Nakai, for reading the legislation into record. Committee members, do we have a motion to consider the legislation?
Motion.
Vice Chair Carl Slater motions. Do we have a second? Delegate Lamardo Azar seconds the motion. Colleagues, do we have any questions or comments on the legislation? No questions? Committee members, would you like the presentation? Hearing none, Ms. Nowtley, can you do a roll call vote on the legislation 02432?
Yes, so Madam Chair, we'll vote on the legislation.
That's how it's done.
Mark Asrick, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Mark Asrick, which green. Honorable Amber Block, are you excused? Honorable Satan, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Satan, which green. Honorable Paul Slater, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Paul Slater, which green. And Honorable Nolan James, excused. Madam Chair, we have 3 members voting in the affirmative or opposing. Madam Chair, not voting, we have 2 members excused. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Before we move on to the next legislation, I'm going to turn the time over to the sponsor to introduce our agents today. Thank you.
Thank you. 5 years, $5 million for his prescription, right?
Yes. All right, committee members, let's move on to legislation 02423. Be considered before the committee. I don't see the sponsor Vince James. Sponsor Vince James, and actually.
Oh, I'm so sponsor now.
Okay, for the record, Speaker Seth Damons co-sponsors legislation 02423. Ms. Nakai, can you read the legislation into record?
Resolution that is now, but the finance. Goes to the PAT committee. Further examination of the year 2023 introduced by Vince James and sponsored by Buckley, the faculty member 044-23, not related to health and services, but the guidance that are given by the and authorizing the conduct of things that happen in the United States, Department of the Interior, live US code 5301, public law, and program. Beginning January 11, 2024, through December 2026, and authorizing of the contract. All of the different documents are there. The internet public review shows no comments made. Health Education Human Services Committee report has been passed no amendment. For budget and finance with the vote time. Here.
Thank you, Ms. Malloy. Committee members, do we have a motion to consider the legislation?
Motion.
Delegate Lamardo Azar motions to consider the legislation. Do we have a second? Second call for a second to the motion.
Second.
Speaker said second motion. Committee members, do we have any questions on the legislation or would like to hear a presentation? Second call. Delegate Azar? Vice Chair Sutter? Hearing none, Ms. Nelson, can you do roll call vote on legislation 024423?
Yes, Madam Chair, we'll call vote on legislation 0244-23. Margo, I should have this correct on the vote, sorry.
Green.
Thank you, Margo, green. Honorable McDavid, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Green. Honorable Paul Slater, how do you vote?
Right.
Thank you, Honorable Paul Slater, votes red. Madam Chair, we have 3 members voting in the affirmative, 1 opposing, 2 members excused. Madam Chair, not voting. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Thank you, Speaker Damon. We're going to move on to the next legislation number 025023. Our sponsor is here. Wait, did I say that right?
Yeah, you did. I'm just confused. That's not a good thing.
All right, welcome to the Budget and Finance Committee. Delegate Herman Daniel. It's not going to be the legislation.
Yes, this is a post foundation council, first year, 2023. Was assigned to Health and Teaching and Human Services Committee, Budget and Finance Committee, and I did, and Nomination Council. Introduced by Herman M. Daniels and co-sponsored by Andy Nance. Tracking number 0250-23, an action relating to the Budget and Finance Committee, the Health, Education and Human Services Committee, then the Creative Committee, and the Nomination Council, approving $500,000 from the sales of Utah State University. The words of new education will be located in Miami Valley, really related expenditure plan. Documents that are attached to there. Education and Human Services Committee has a new task with one amendment 1. On page 1, lines 11 through 12, make the following changes relating to the district budget and finance and underscore is Health, Education and Human Services Committee. And then it says, the is Health, Education and Human Services, and then underscore is Budget and Finance Committee. The page 4, lines 27 through 30, insert the paragraph 8 is follows. The Lieutenant Governor of the state of Utah was provided a letter affirming Utah's support for the project, the tax the 3 number related to sections and exhibits as necessary and appropriate and office of administrative services and the office of administrative counsel and its exhibits information and information council can take. This amendment supersedes the consistent amendment from any other amendments which language that we conform to this community. So that's we do know.
Thank you, Ms. Malachi, for reading the legislation into the record. Committee members, do we have a motion on the legislation?
Oh, motion.
Speaker Davis, motion to consider the legislation. Do we have a second? We have a second to consider the legislation. Okay, I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Privilege. Order.
Okay.
My first and one leader to, Madam Chair.
Rules.
What's the 5-minute recess?
Motion, there's a motion on the floor for a 5-minute recess. Do you have a second?
Or you can just do it as a chair,
We can just be there and discuss
right?
recess for you.
Let's recess until 11:13.
Okay.
And I think we're going to. Okay,
Rule 11,
Ms. Safai, I'm going to recommend you to read the rule.
I'm looking under Rule 11 for the main motion after the reading of the legislation. It says the chair shall entertain the motion to adopt from the floor of the committee. Motion can be made by any member of the committee. A second shall be made with no superior. Second. And I believe that's consistent with previous practice.
When has this ever happened?
I couldn't speak to an exact time or meeting for that. I just generally recall that we've done this before. We can ask if Ms. Obrock is on the call. I can see what she says.
Thank you, Mr. Potty. I'm going to withdraw my proposed second if it's a legitimate second, just because I didn't know if the committee members were listening to the second call for the second. So just through the advisement of legislative council and also our advisor, I took the opportunity to consider the legislation, but I'm going to withdraw just as the chair. So I'm going to open it back up for a second though. So we do have a motion from Speaker Seth Damon. Do we have a second to consider the legislation? We have the sponsor and also the agents here as well from Utah University. All right, going to the lights. Okay, going 3 times for a second. Also, for the record, Ms. Bobrock has also agreed with Ms. Tapahi's understanding of the rule. As the, I'm going to stand by my decision to withdraw the second because I want to respect the committee, and if the committee does not wish to second the motion, then that's where the committee stands. I'm gonna do a third call for a second. Hearing none, there's no second on the floor. This legislation will not be considered by the committee. Thank you. But it's forward, it's over forward.
Chairs, on the things, for the record, I would have voted red on this. I just want to be on the record and let you know that, but I do support the effort for doing a substitute motion and giving a legislation for you to be instead of Stevenson. I don't mind working on that with you to get us doing it.
And if I am gonna support it, that's probably the way it is. Yeah, but I'm not quite. But I think the U.S. is the place about it. Because it's more.
Because this is matching 5 million, 5 million, 500,000.
Right, on a roll, I guess we'll chat in a second.
So, motion adjourned, good.
Okay, and then for the record.
The third record.
Okay, we move on to, actually, do you have any motions about the items?
I don't want to schedule things about it.
I'd like to move to adjourn.
Second, great, sounds good.
Okay, for the record,
I said,
Vice Chair Slater on screen, he's also the motioning party, so as we're executive motion to adjourn, he goes screen, and then for the record, Speaker David, how do you vote? How do you vote on the adjournment?
I voted.
Speaker David, great, on adjournment, we adjourn at 11:13. Thank you. And, our lunch is coming. Members of the committee.